Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I hope you've had a good week, and I hope everyone will have a good Shabbos. May it bring peace and blessings to the entire Jewish people. This week's Erev Shabbos video Dvar Torah is sponsored by Susan Rose in memory of her grandfather George Rose Gershon ben Yosef Zechrona Levracha, whose yahrzeit is the 1st of Adar tomorrow, and her father Charles M. Rose Karel ben Gershon Zechrona Levracha, whose yahrzeit was observed recently on the 20th of Shabbat. Both of their neshamas should have an aliyah, and thank you, Susan, for the sponsorship. The Erev Shabbos Fidur Dvar Torah is also always meant to be a merit, especially for the hostages that remain in Gaza. Today is 511 of their captivity. We daven for them, their welfare, their immediate release, as well as all the soldiers fighting on behalf of the Jewish people, all of their respective families, and all of Israel. In this week's Parsha, Parshas Terumah, we have the incredible mitzvah that God commands Moshe and the Jewish people to build for him a temple, a sanctuary. Va'asuli mikdash, make for me a sanctuary. And God promises a miracle that we cannot fathom how it happens, but v'shachanti b'socham. God promises that if you do so, then I will dwell amongst you. The Torah then elaborates in slightly more detail. Kechol asher ani mareh oscha. Hashem tells Moshe, and as I show this to you, as I show the plans to you, eis tavnis hamishkan ve'eis tavnis kol kelav, the form of the actual tabernacle, the sanctuary, as well as the form of all of the vessels. And then the Torah adds one final time for emphasis, v'chein tasu, and so shall you do. However, on a very minimalist, literal level, these last two words are superfluous. The Torah said, you shall make for me a sanctuary as I show you. Why does it repeat again, v'chein tasu, and so shall you do? Rashi quotes the Gemara, v'chein tasu lidoros, and so shall you do for all future generations. As Rashi elaborates, if one of the vessels will break, when we get into Israel, if something is lost, that the plan laid out in the Torah was not only for that generation, for Moshe and the people in the wilderness, but it was the basic plan for all future generations. However, over the last 500 years, we find an interpretation, a deeper interpretation, amongst many, numerous commentators of all segments of the Jewish people that interpret this phrase in a more profound and meaningful way, personal to each of us. First of all, as the interpretation goes, it draws our attention to the first pasuk, Vasuli Mikdash, you shall make for me a sanctuary, Vishachanti Bisocham, and I will dwell amongst you, but that is a you in plural. Vishachanti Bisocho or Bisocha, it does not say, but rather Bisocham, I will dwell amongst you, the entire Jewish people, in your plurality, in your multitude, in each and every one of you. The interpretation is that Hashem is commanding us and promising that if we build a national sanctuary, He will dwell within us on a national level. But on a deeper level, bisocham, plural, multitude, I wish to dwell amongst each and every one of you. Each person is meant to build a sanctuary in your heart, in which I will dwell, Hashem says, V'chein ta'asu ledoros. And that is what you should do for all generations, because this mitzvah, the basic idea of it, that God dwells in this world amongst us, is not limited to the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the wilderness, or to the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. It applies to every Jew in all generations. I read to you an often cited quote from the Nefesh HaChaim of Rav Chaim Volozhiner, the primary student of the Vilna Gaon, reading in translation. Do not think that my primary intention is the construction of an external sanctuary, speaking in God's name. Rather, you should know that my primary desire with the building of the tabernacle and its utensils is only to teach you that this is what you should do with yourselves. You, through your proper actions, should be like a tabernacle, holy and fit for the dwelling of my presence. Bisocham, amongst you, literally, mamish. This is the intention of the verses. And make for me a sanctuary, and I will reside amongst them, just as I've showed you the form of the tabernacle and its utensils. My intention is, v'chein tasu, and so shall you do with yourselves. We find this interpretation here presented by the primary student of the Vilna Gaon, but we find the same interpretation amongst the great Hasidic masters, the Baalei Chasidus. We find it amongst the Bali Musar, the teachers of the paths of Yisrael Salanter that focus on moral ethical behavior. We find it earlier amongst the teachings and interpretations of the Kabbalists, of earlier great late medieval authorities, of amongst Ashkenazim, amongst Sephardim. We find this interpretation. The truth speaks across all segments of the Jewish people and all traditions within the Jewish people. And the truth is, all of these different commentators, meforshim, thinkers, teachers, rabbis, probably meant it a little bit different. The presence of God that dwells amongst us. For some, it would be a passion. For some, it would be this very stern, unbending commitment. For some, it would be overflowing joy. For some, it would be a mystical fervor. Each of these rabbis, each of these traditions probably understood the divine dwelling within us in a slightly different flavor, because there are different ways to serve Hashem and feel His presence. However, the common denominator of all these interpretations is that that divine presence is found, built, cultivated within ourselves. Bisocham. This be found within you. We are supposed to make a temple within our hearts. What that temple will be, the kind of fire that will burn, the kind of altar that will be built within us, is different from person to person. And there are different traditions of our Masorah, of what that should be, the exact flavor of the Avodas Hashem. But the common denominator is that our emunah, our faith, is not just belief in something beyond us, in an idea outside of us, but our faith is the indwelling of the divine presence that rests within us. Va'asuli mikdash. Hashem speaks to every Jew, who ever did, who does live today. He speaks to us through the words of the Torah. Va'asuli mikdash. You, each and one, every one of you, shall make for me a sanctuary. V'shachanti b'socham. I will dwell within you, inside of you, amongst you. V'chein ta'asu. And so shall each and every one of you lidoros, for all future generations. Good Shabbos, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom.